Hey guys, a little bit of an expansion on my Livefire on a budget. I've created a large version of that using multiple layers of cotton towels, wood shavings, cotton balls, oil, and paraffin wax. And I'm just going to show you guys it right now. What I've done is I've put it in the sucrets tin and then closed it up. And normally I actually seal around the edge with electrical tape. Keep everything nice and waterproof, plus you can then burn the electrical tape as part of, your survival scenario if you need to. So what I've done is there's a bottom layer here, which is a cotton towel, and then on top of that I've put some really fine wood shavings and a little bit of sawdust, and on top of that I've put in some cotton balls. And then I've actually saturated all that in low heat, slow burning oil. And then on top of that, to make sure the whole thing ends up being waterproof and so that it burns for a long period of time, I've got another layer of cotton towel. On top of that, more wood shavings, and on top of that, a whole lot of cotton balls that I've then super saturated in paraffin wax. Now, one thing I found super saturating every part of those cotton balls and paraffin wax is it might be a little bit difficult to light with like a ferro rod or something like that. So in this case, I've also put on top a couple of regular cotton balls, and I've just kind of scorched them already so that they've melted into the wax. So I'm just going to rough this up and we'll get it going, and hopefully it works like the Livefire. This is the first real long-term test, and I'm going to just set the camera going, and we'll see how long this one cube will actually last, whether or not you could possibly use this, for instance, to warm a small shelter, or if you needed to use it as a candle. So here we go. You should just be able to rough it up just like a Livefire. Get those cotton fibers up a bit. And I've chosen to actually just do it in the middle. One of the reasons I'm doing it in the box, like the Livefire, rather than as just a cube, say like Chris from Prepared Mind 101 does, is this will allow for a more controlled burn. Plus, if I need to, I can always close the box up, snuff the fire, and use it again. Okay, so let's just get this going. Now you can see it took the spark pretty easily, and I don't want a huge flame right now. I always keep mentioning, you can light kindling off of something like this. I've got a little, well, I got to clean this fireplace, but this is just some paper, packing paper that came in an Amazon box, and I mean, you don't need much to light that. So let's just see how long this burns, and we'll come back when it's done. Oh, and you might hear a little bit of purring in the background. I just came back from my grandfather's funeral, and my cats are very happy. Well, we're about 20 minutes into the experiment, and still going pretty strong. Obviously the cotton balls and everything, as they dry out, draw up a bit, but the wax is still drawing through them, still acting like a wick. Well, here we are at the 30-minute mark, and as you can tell, the flame is a little bit diminished, but we still have a really good fire going. So we're actually at about the 42-minute mark. And as you can see, it's still burning pretty good. I'm about 2 feet away and I can still feel heat off of this thing, so I mean, obviously it's working pretty good. Haven't had to remove any of that black char yet, so yeah, we'll just come back in a little bit and see how it goes. So we're at just about the 50-minute mark, and as you can see, the flame is starting to diminish. Yeah, not necessarily substantially, but enough that I'm noticing it. So I'm just going to go ahead and remove a little bit of that char, and hopefully that'll rejuvenate the flame a bit. So here we are at actually the hour mark, and as you can see, we still have flame, and we actually still have quite a bit of heat coming off of it. There wouldn't be obviously a lot of light because this is the only real light source, but the low flame is really bloody hot, and actually just before I started talking, I put my finger a little too close and managed to actually scorch myself pretty bad. Hey guys, we're at about an hour and 20 minutes, and as you can tell, the flames are starting to flicker a little bit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove a bit more of this char. Now there's still quite a bit of heat coming off of this, but with the flames flickering, that means that there's a possibility of them extinguishing. So I'll remove some of the char, and that should expose the bottom layer, which is the layer that doesn't actually have the paraffin wax, but the layer that has the oil. So let's see. And there's a lot of heat coming off this. You can see here, this is that towel I was telling you about. It's just cotton towel, and it's basically going to act like a wick for the oil that's underneath. Now let's just leave that like that, with these extra pieces in the back, and see how long that oil lasts. So we're actually coming up on the hour and 30-minute mark, and as you guys can tell, it's still burning pretty good. Got a little bit of flickering, but the towel here is charring up quite nicely, and anytime it gets looking like you need a little bit more light, you can always pop up some of this char and just get some fresh access to new fuel. Hey guys, so here we are at the 2-hour mark. About 20 minutes ago, I decided I was going to put a little thermometer near the flame and see what the temperature would be. And it looks like, I don't know if you guys can see that, but it is about 80 degrees around this fire. So, as you can see, getting some dwindling flames. Again, we'll just remove the top layer of char. And right now we're mostly just burning off the oil that is soaked into everything underneath here. Okay guys, so here we are at about 2 hours and 33 minutes, and as you can tell, we are getting just down to the dregs. I've left that thermometer there, and we are sitting at, still at 80 degrees, so that's around 25 Celsius, right around the fire. I mean, obviously the dome of heat has gotten quite a bit smaller, but still giving off more than enough heat. We're down to, we're getting cinders. Of course, each time I expose more surface area, more of the oil will be burned. At the end of this video, what I'll do is I'll actually show you guys how I made this. Hey guys, so we're at 2 hours and 53 minutes. The temperature on the thermometer is still, it's just shy of 80 Fahrenheit or 25 Celsius, and it's still about 4 or 5 inches away. There's a lot more ash left in here, so obviously we're getting to the very end of the fuel sources I've put in here, and just scraping the very bottom of it. There's really not that much left. So this thing has almost lasted 3 hours, which truthfully is beyond my greatest expectations for it. I'd originally hoped that this thing would last a couple hours, so you could use it in an emergency to start a fire, and if you wanted to use it again and again and again, or if you just needed to use it as a standalone, you could. So holy crap guys, 3 hours and 52 minutes, and we have just the last little remnants of my fire going in there. I'm gonna tap some of the ash out of this thing. The box is hotter than hell, so I'm gonna use a pair of pliers. Just get the last of the ash out of there. So you can see we still have some fuel in there burning. But yeah, I'm gonna basically call it at around 3 hours, 55 minutes, damn near 4 hours. Nearly a 4-hour burn. I mean, obviously it probably would have burned a little bit longer if I hadn't always been doing this and lifting up this stuff. But yeah, we can call it a 4-hour burn. So yeah, 4 hours-ish on just one simple little multi-layered fuel box, for lack of a better term. So yeah, now I'll show you guys how I made this thing, and at the end of that I'll give you the final burn time on this. Okay guys, now for the quick how-to on putting this basically together. Like I said, cotton towel. What I've actually done, slight modification, is I've gone ahead and I've actually put paraffin wax at the bottom of this tin. It'll help coat it a little bit and should provide a little bit more fuel source. Plus it'll give this something to bite into. And then what I'm going to do is put these cotton balls, which I've already pulled apart and essentially kind of fluffed up, as a second layer. And this is to give the oil something to bite into. And so I'm just using mineral oil here. And yeah, I'm using quite a bit. And then I'm going to squish everything down into it to make sure everything's super saturated. So I've gone ahead and let this sit for a little bit, and what's basically happened is all that mineral oil has saturated into the towel remnant, and you can see a little bit. If you press down, you'll end up with little white spots on the cotton. That's perfectly fine. That's kind of what you're going for. It means that there's a little bit of air in the cotton, but that oil has saturated through everything. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put another little bit of towel right over top of that, and then I'm going to press it down so it gets some oil, and then I'm going to pour paraffin wax on top of that. So there's a few different ways you can do the paraffin wax. One of the safest ways is probably doing a double boil, where you just put a tin can inside of a saucepan, get water in the saucepan and get that up to a temperature where the paraffin wax is going to actually melt. Or you can do what I'm about to do, which is actually just directly melt the paraffin wax onto this. All I'm using is a little butane torch, and I'm just going to apply it directly to a block of paraffin wax. So we'll get that on here. As you can see, I'm trying to get some of the wax pretty much everywhere on here to form essentially a wax seal. Since the wax is still liquid, you can obviously form it around a bit. Now, this doesn't have to be a perfect wax seal. Obviously, if your underlayer is not completely saturated with oil, the wax will seep through into the underlayer, but that's perfectly fine. A little bit more and this will be good. And obviously, if you're doing this the same way I'm doing it right now, be very careful not to let your flame wick down, because you will set this alight. Okay, so we've got our wax layer, and I'm just going to let that cool for a couple of minutes, and then I'll start putting some more cotton balls on top of that, and we'll take it from there. Okay, so I've already gone ahead and laid out some more cotton balls on there and then saturated it with a little more paraffin wax. At this point, you actually have a couple of options. You can either keep going and stuff some more cotton balls on there, or you can lay another layer of cotton towel, or you can do a mixture of the cotton balls and another fuel source, sawdust, and then you just cover the whole thing in wax. What I'm going to do is another layer of the cotton towel. I'm going to press that down. Now, obviously, paraffin wax is still hot and liquid underneath that, so mind your fingers. And at the same time, I'm trying to get a little bit of that to saturate into this. We're going to do another layer of cotton balls right on top, but what I want to do at this point, because I've got this, I can use it to press down and get rid of any little air pockets that are underneath it. Because each time you're adding the paraffin wax, the layer below shouldn't actually be solidified. It should be just liquid enough that it'll either soak through like in these areas or spurt through like on the outside. So I'll keep doing that, and we'll add another layer of cotton balls, some more wax, and we'll be back. Alright, so at this point I've got the next layer of cotton balls on top. I'm going to add some more paraffin wax to that. You have a couple of options with the layer after that. You can either put more cotton balls on top, but one thing to note is you'll end up with more of that charred material. Just like on mine, you saw it kind of puff up a little bit and it was really black and charred. All it was really burnt off cotton balls. Or you can do what I'm going to do, which is do one more layer of the towel on top and then do cotton balls. The reason you want cotton balls to be your last layer is you want something to rough up and something that'll take your spark. So, yeah, let's just do the wax and we'll get going. And the only real reason I'm putting this much wax in rather than the additional fuel sources like oil or anything like that, I'm not really looking for a hot burn. What I'm looking for is a sustained burn. I want this to last for several hours. I mean, you saw the last one was 4 hours long, just about. Actually, it ended up, sorry, I meant to tell you guys the total burn time. 4 hours and 7 minutes. And that's what I was going for, was something that would burn for a long period of time. If you needed it in an enclosed shelter, you could do that. Or if you needed it to start a fire and you wanted to use it over and over and over, that still gives you the option. So like I said, while it's still damp, I want to press this down on there. And you'll be able to put down your last layer of cotton balls. And then the last thing to do will be to close the lid. So let's press this down a little bit more. And what you can actually do too is you can put your last layer directly down onto this and just press down through that. What it'll do is the wax will saturate through this cotton layer as well as the cotton balls themselves, and they'll actually tack it down onto the surface. Now, if, like with this one, the last layer spills over a little bit, you can just mop it up, use that wax again later. Okay, so that's got wax coming through the last cotton ball layer. So we'll just add the last little bit of paraffin wax to seal this off, and then we'll close it up. What I'm going to do is this last little bit of cotton ball, I'm just going to put it right in the middle and press it down. I'm going to close the lid up. Now that'll take several hours to harden, but the reason I did that cotton ball on the top is what you want is an easy striking surface. I roughed it up and was able to just strike directly on that, but this little strip of cotton that's right in the middle, that'll give you the exact same thing. Plus it starts out working like a wick. So yeah, that's pretty much the way to make this. Like I said, it'll burn for about 4 hours. So a couple of modifications you can make. You can see here on this one, what I've done is I've actually put strips of the cotton towel on either side and then just done a strip of cotton in the middle. The main reason for that is this cotton will burn faster because it has more surface area once you rough it up than the towel. That should give you a little bit longer of a burn time for the initial burn. It'll be a much reduced flame, but eventually it will burn through all the wax on both of these. As well, it should end up with slightly less char than the first one did. So that's about it, guys. Hopefully this idea has given you something that you can use, or another tool for your survival kit. So I want to thank you so much for watching, and as always, if you like this video, please feel free to click like, feel free to subscribe for more videos like this in the future, and feel free to share this video as much as you want. And until next time, guys, stay sharp.